Join us in a few minutes as we review the clues on The Alienist.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer.
I love how The Alienist takes like songs that I thought were cute and turns them into songs that I now think are creepy.
Some like eerie twist on things.
I know.
I happen to like Nat King Cole.
I'm your host, 123 Jackie B. Steve is in the booth today engineering our show, and he told me I have no concept of time. But anyway, so you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, 123 Jackie B.
What does Steve know? That's what I'm going to say. Steve, what do you know?
Steve's running.
Cut
the mic.
You know what, Steve? I've always liked you. Hey, guys, as you can see, he can turn my mic off. I am Miss Candi Marie. You can find me on Instagram and at Sweet Candor TV on Twitter.
Hey everybody, I'm Alice Ford. You can find me on Twitter at Alice L. Ford and on everything else at Alice's Adventures on Earth.
And thank goodness my mic is on. This is Takira Shabrae. You can find me on Instagram at Takira_Shabrae and new to Twitter at Takira_Shabrae as well.
Well, Steve also thought that this show was about aliens, which is, again, a thing that people seem to be confused about. Like, not after they watch it, obviously.
Right.
But when they see the billboards or whatever, they're like, well, what does this have to do with aliens?
Right.
I noticed that last episode, we all noticed that we didn't mention what an alienist is. It's a psychologist, because there was the idea at the time that you were alienated from your primary self. So what an alienist did was try and like reconcile that.
Right.
So it's the early study of psychology and psychiatry.
Right.
Nothing to do with aliens.
And I love that it points it out at the beginning of every show too, that those people were alienated, and it's a pretty good point.
Right. I'm so glad we enlightened our audience.
Yeah.
So I do want to each week do a little dive into historical info, because there's such detail and love on this show put into the historical background. And my first thought was pee. I kept writing pee because as they walk through the streets in both this episode and the last episode, you will see someone dump their chamber pot out the window.
This is true.
And it made me think of I've been to New Orleans a bunch of times, and I go to tons
I used to live there.
Really? I love New Orleans. I do.
She's
so
like, watch what you say.
No. I love New Orleans. So every time, and I'm not saying that New Orleans smells like pee by any means. I'm just saying it's one of the oldest cities in the U.S. And so in the U.S., it's hard for us to find one of those like old cities where we can say, hey, this like historical reference makes sense to me.
They threw a pee out the window.
Well, they did. Yeah. Because I've done a lot of like ghost tours and housing tours in that city, and a lot of they used to have a lot of illnesses in New Orleans. Like they've had several plagues, and that's why the city was like riddled with death all the time, because like one of the reasons was like the unhygienicness of throwing the chamber pot out the window, and they would just toss it into the street. And so every time I see that, I'm like, oh God, it must smell terrible. It must smell terrible there.
Well, luckily they use lemon fresh in the street cleaners there now.
Well, that's good to know.
There you go.
Street cleaners.
And I'm going to keep the hygiene conversation going. One of the things that I absolutely hated was I felt like their fingers were just so disgusting. Like okay, when we saw the part where the police captain touched her face, his fingers were bloody. When the young man was eating the food and he was like, hey, you might want to wash your hands. Like, everybody's hands are just so disgusting.
They
like,
do not have antibacterial lotion.
They don't. I wish they did, because he was going in on that food, and I'm like, your hands are disgusting.
Oh, they're gross.
That's kind of a good point, that like there's actually some little hints like in different corners.
Hygiene was not a priority at all.
Hygienic people being like overly worried about it.
Well, we really noticed that when you get to like the tenement housing of the Italian immigrants, where like everybody's living on top of each other, and the guy's just like bleeding on the bed, and the lady's running around with some sort of bottle of I assume like
whatever
medicine,
probably
or something.
like cocaine water or something.
Because it cures everything.
That's right.
Whatever.
Everything.
No, it does not.
I don't know.
But it's
At
it
the
takes
time.
right? I know.
And then they moved on to heroin water.
Oh, interesting.
And then mixed it
Did
together.
not try this at home, kids.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say, like, the whole, like, back in the day thing, like, the things that they used to do, that historical, like, all of these little tidbits, all of these, like, little things from history that we kind of, like, learn while we're being entertained by the show.
Right,
It's really
right.
cool.
And the boots. I know we talked about the boots while we were sitting down. The significance of the boots. So I looked it up. I couldn't find a whole lot, but apparently they placed those on the front of brothels back in the day. So if you saw a pair of boots tied together, something was going down in that
Because you couldn't put up a
building.
girls sign back
No, shining lights going like this.
Boys, boys.
No. A man's boots. A man's boots. Oh, it's going down.
Interesting.
It's going to be dirty, nasty boots.
That's kind of like the sock on the door for college? Like, is that what that is?
Oh, tell us more.
I mean, look, I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, I have a friend who has a friend.
Oh.
Who had a friend.
With a sock.
Yeah, it's on, well, you know, it's on Grownish, you know, another TV show that I watch.
No,
but
that was a
it's-
real thing in my college. Like,
Yeah.
people actually
Really?
did that. They put a sock on their door and you were, like, not supposed to enter and you knew that.
And I've never heard about the sock thing.
Oh, yeah.
never
If you're
heard of
getting
it?
it on, you put the sock on the
boy.
door and then the other
Oh.
person's supposed to know, don't
That's
go
when
in
you
there.
walk by and you knock, like, back in the day, they used boots. Like, you could give them a little historical lesson. I don't know.
So moving on from bodily functions, Mayor Strong, who we see at the opera in this episode, he actually was the mayor of New York at the time. He did hire Teddy Roosevelt. He is known for being the father of the city's Department of Correction, and he was very much into fighting corruption, which again is basically kind of Teddy Roosevelt's thing as well. So I thought that was interesting. I hope we get to see more of him as well, because it seems right now that him and Roosevelt do not have any hold on the city whatsoever.
No, yeah.
And I'm
Not at
kind
all.
of wondering, well, okay, what are you going to do to fix this?
Step
Right.
up.
Right.
And so we have a new little segment that we're doing called hashtag It Means Something.
Yes.
And we're each going to pick out one individual clue that we found. Maybe it's not a clue, but maybe it's just
Right.
something that means something to us. And we think that it really does mean
It's
something.
a clue, dang it.
Yes.
It's a clue.
We go deeper in the details that normal people wouldn't recognize.
They
But
wouldn't.
the investigators and us and all those investigators out there, we saw
Yes,
it. And-
yes.
so
and
since
hashtag
you
means
came
something.
up with a segment, you wanna let us know what yours was?
Kick it off? Sure, why not? I brought in a point for Mary. So when I say Mary, does it ring a bell? Like, do people?
Yes.
must-
Yeah, I thought she was real weird.
Right.
She's Chrysler's like house lady.
Exactly. Well, like the first, when I was discussing the show with friends, like they was like, Mary, who? Like who? But I want to write down that something that stood out to me was her smirk. She kind of got really uncomfortable. She had a smirk on her, like kind of a, like she was upset and she was pissed. But when Sarah and Dr. Chrysler were going back and forth, like kind of this weird, awkward, are they flirting, not flirting thing, when she was like, oh, is that a request or a command? Like, Mary got a little uncomfortable, and that's when she obviously dropped the plate and dropped the, glass or whatever she had. And to me, it hashtag means something because
Love it.
I think that she and Dr. Chrysler, there's more there. I think Mary is his housekeeper, is his aide or whatever, but I think that they have a background. I think
Yeah,
like
there's
they have a
something
past.
weird there, and she's definitely very, as a character, very like jittery and anxious. And he had that whole speech at the end of last episode where I forgot, she was like putting on his shoes or something, and she just seems so uncomfortable the whole time he was talking.
Yeah, something's going on there.
Something weird.
Can I add to that? I wanted to say, when I saw her drop the glass, I was thinking like, does she know something about something that's going on that we don't know?
That's a good
like
point.
It kind of caught her off guard. Like maybe she heard something that's relative to somebody that she knows, or something. Just I don't know. I was like, okay.
That's a really good
I'm
point.
gonna watch you a little closely. I didn't really watch you before, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch you now.
And they were talking about like right before that, they were talking about the old files, or they called them the old dogs.
Yeah.
And they did mention that there was a unidentified Negro boy, and is he related to Mary?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah, I was
Mary
like,
know
she
who that
looks
boy
mixed.
is?
She looks like she's of mixed
Yeah.
race or something.
Yeah, we don't really know. So, I mean, back then it was common for, mixed individuals like black, white to be in the household, or, that right before she dropped the plate and Susan and Dr. Chrysler went back and forth, that was what they were discussing. So,
Well, and she looked like she almost wanted to say something to her when they
Right.
were picking up the pieces.
Oh, yes.
But then there was just like silence, and I was like, oh.
so awkward. Yeah. So.
It seems like, and it also seems like Dr. Chrysler has, and this is like I'm bringing in a little bit of book knowledge, but not anything that would give anything
Bring it,
away. It seems that he hires people that probably society might put in jail or might frown upon or might have had a dicey background.
Or alienate.
Yeah,
Are
exactly. Like
alienated.
Cyrus in the books has kind of a dicey background, and he says, no, let's not put him in jail. I'm going to hire him. Same thing with the little boy Stevie who works
Makes
for him.
sense.
So I haven't gotten to a point in a book where I have any information on Mary yet. So I'm wondering if that's another situation where like Mary had some sort of situation where he's protecting her, but she's still scared.
Right.
That's a really good point.
I'm so glad you're reading the book, though.
Right.
Like, I think it's dope
It's a long book.
that we're able to get that perspective as well. Like, that's cool. Like, we can add that to the panel. That's really cool.
And again, like I said, I don't want to give away spoilers. Just I just plan on
do it.
Yeah, I just plan on bringing in something if I feel like it might
really
help
cool.
like a little bit. And I really liked that they gave this sort of background as he's trying to help everyone around
yeah.
him.
Right.
I mean, he kind of does that with, I know we are moving on to kind of the next detail, but he kind of does that with, if you think about it, the team that he puts together. Like, he's kind of taken this natural head of this investigative team.
Right.
So if you think about it, he brought in the Jewish brothers
Isaacson
that are,
brothers.
the Isaacson brothers who are, kind of tossed to the side. He brought in, of course, Susan, who's only female, and then lovely John. I mean, this hopeless romantic with a broken spirit.
Still trying to find out what he's
Yeah.
bringing to the table, but
Right.
hey.
I mean,
What are you bringing, John?
It's like, you probably brought everything you already have.
And
I
then
was like,
he's like,
whoa.
oh, heck no, but we'll get into that.
Right. Anyway. All right. Well, the next
So what's
Hashtag-
yours? Yeah.
it means something is I wanted to bring up the rings because in the last episode we obviously saw that Moore's kind of woman that he likes to pay for from time to time, he would always give the ring for collateral. And then in this episode we were told about the about Susan's ring, the signet ring, or I think that's how you say it, which I guess those rings were actually rings of high society, and so they had either like a coat of arms or a like your initials on it, and it was her father's, and you would use that to like seal letters and stuff like that with wax. They've been around since like the 5th century. So there's something also to show that you're of a higher stature. So I'm just wondering if there's going to be like more rings in some of the other episodes.
Very
Because
interesting.
now we've had a ring that's very, very significant, but not really discussed like, in full in both episodes. So
It's more evidence that Sarah is wealthy, and then this would be, I guess, further evidence that she comes, like, it's not new money, it's old money.
yeah,
And we know she's an orphan, and it's an interesting juxtaposition because you'll see these other characters, I'm assuming Stevie is an orphan as well, who are poor, but she's an orphan who comes from means.
right.
And I think
Very
that she,
interesting.
wants to make a point that even though she's from money, that she wants to work for it too. So she kind of hides the ring, like she doesn't talk about it. So I think that the point that you bring that up is really
It's like she has a lot to prove, in a sense.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
like she's earning her keep
Yeah.
and where she is in society. And,
Right.
at the police station, in society, just as a woman, being a rich woman that comes from, wow,
She has
ladies.
something to prove, yeah.
That's a lot of great points.
Yeah. I think, the ring for John, too, I think the collateral point was so interesting that you brought up last week, but I think that it means something.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that the fact that he always gives that to the prostitute, it kind of makes me think like it's not just collateral. Like he this ring belonged to somebody. It was his old fiance. I'm claiming it. I'm putting it out there. It was his old fiance's. He caught her cheating, like something crazy, and he kept it. So we don't know if maybe the prostitute looks like her, because we never really see him with another prostitute. So does he like play out this whole heartbroken thing, trying to kind of pretend that they're still together? I mean, like,
And we did see her for a brief glimpse today.
oh yes,
Oh, we did.
saw her again.
Yes, indeedy.
Which I have no idea what that means, but
It means something.
it means something.
It means something. Well, speaking of it means something, I want to point out J.P. Morgan. What was that about? He obviously is not a fan of Dr. Chrysler. I saw that and I was like, okay, this means something. I don't know what it means. I don't know if it's related to what's currently going on, but it means something. And I feel like we're going to see more of him. I also want to extend out to the live chat. We've got people that are tuning in right now with us. So thanks, guys. Let us know what your hashtag it means something is, and we'll talk about it during the show.
Yes.
Oh, so that was your mean
So
something.
yeah, JP
I'm
Morgan.
So sorry.
Yes.
JP Morgan.
JP Morgan. There's something going on with that. It means something. I didn't like the way he looked at Dr. Chrysler.
Right.
Plus, having a historical figure on the show, always you feel like, okay, if you're going to take something that's historical fiction and you're putting an actual like historical figure in it, you had to have done your research or know what's going on to be able to do that. So, mine was the fact that the killer removes the tongues and the eyes. I mean, we have this sort of the first act, if you will. We have this sort of God versus science thing going on, which is like a theme as old as time.
Right.
And you have what do you call the guy who works in the morgue? Coroner.
Yes.
I was gonna be like morgue man. The morgue man.
Sounds like
the
a
morgue
Marvel
man
hero.
who's like burning nipples. Does anybody know if that's a historical thing?
Oh, what?
Well,
Yeah,
he was venting the gases out of their bodies.
out of
that's
their
what that's
bodies.
about.
Yeah, because like
Okay.
now we
That
use,
makes way more sense than burning nipples.
And not having
nowadays
nipples.
we use formaldehyde after like to preserve the organs and whatever. But like back then, maybe they didn't have that. So
Was I the only one that was like, oh,
no, I
breast
was kind of. I
nipples?
was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so gross.
I was like, why
I
is he
didn't even-
burning nipples?
didn't
What
even
is
know
this?
No, what got to me was
nipples.
the eyeball out of the skull of the cow. But
wow.
So
goodness.
But
Yes.
yeah.
We'll get to that in just a minute because that's some very forward scientific thinking. But
Oh.
so we have so the coroner, he says after Chrysler asks about the tongues, he starts listing like basically Old Testament Bible books, Deuteronomy and Leviticus. And it made me wonder if there's some sort of like biblical obsession or some sort of reason, because a lot of Deuteronomy and Leviticus is like listing of things, and so it makes me wonder if he's following some. I don't know those books well enough, but it makes me wonder if he's following some sort of ritual or is some sort of like Bible fanatic, and that's why he's doing that.
Amazing
And
point.
And if that was like a clue from the audience, for the audience to be like, Chrysler looks at things from such a scientific perspective, and he basically tells him to be a man of God. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I wonder if that's like if you knew what I knew, like it would help you with these clues. Like,
Yeah.
you have to go
And
beyond science.
the priest came to his like
His
mental
school or-
institution
yeah,
or whatever you want to call it, and also was like giving him some flack. So he's obviously got some past with, I think, the religion,
church, yeah.
religious figures in town.
He
And I
says
think
that, yeah.
psychology was such a unknown thing at that time. Sigmund Freud had just published his first book right around the time of this story taking place. So like psychology and studying the mind and helping people that are a little bit off their rocker was definitely not something that a lot of people agreed with at that time.
And you know what? I'm gonna go to our live chat because Alyssa Foster, again, thank you so much for supporting the show and tuning in, Alyssa. We love you. She just actually gave us a really, really great point. She said, "My it means something is, how about when the little boy said to the killer, 'What's wrong with your mouth?'" Oh,
that was gonna be on my.
that's a good one,
something.
yeah.
Oh, Alyssa, you're on it.
You
That
just
was-
gave me goosebumps, Alyssa.
That was actually going to be on my list of clues because we know, like, they mention that there's a rich man with a silver mouth.
Right.
And then the little boy says there's something wrong with your mouth. Initially, when he said that, I thought of someone with, like, a cleft palate, like something, like, physically
right.
wrong. And then I
Yeah.
was like, maybe he has silver teeth. Like, now I don't know. And I don't know if silver mouth means, like, silver tongued, like you just speak well.
Yeah. Well,
And
they said
so-
silver smile.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, towards the end, it's like the Sally, the little boy that took John back to the room, said, you know, that this man with a silver smile used to come and see Gloria all the time. So, you know, that's a really, really good point. I mean, like, it's like we're piecing all of those clues together. And
when you have to think about the time, like, who has
Silver.
this guy has to have money because who has to
Right.
who would have
Who can afford that?
Who could afford that?
Exactly.
Everybody else's teeth is rotten. I mean, nobody has good hygiene. You
Right.
know?
They're
Nobody
throwing
washes
pee
their
into the
hands,
streets,
pee.
right?
I just want to say, if I ever need private investigators, I'm calling y'all. Okay, like you guys
Right.
are on it.
Right. And the tongues thing, like, the fact that when you said that, like, to bring up the tongues, you're thinking, okay, see no evil, speak no evil. Like, this whole police corruption thing is going on. Like, is it symbolic to they don't want, you know, anyone to say something, like, to scare? I mean, like, there's so many levels to this show. I just
But
love
there's
it.
something weird also because he's a cannibal. Like, not only is he removing these body parts, but he's ingesting them. And you're
Right.
like, okay, is he ingesting them just because he likes to eat humans? Or is he ingesting them because this is part of a ritual?
Right. And maybe that's why he has silver teeth, for crying out loud. I mean,
I don't know. I have like a weird theory that like maybe.
Share it,
I'd
girl.
love to hear it.
Share it, girl.
Okay, so I don't know why I was like looking up the history of rock climbing earlier, which apparently started in it got really popular on 1875. But like the guy in the last episode like went out of a ceiling, like it could be that he was good at rock climbing, which at that time would have like just been getting popular. And like Half Dome, which is like here in California, was first climbed in 1875. And like typical gear was metal spikes and like a kind of like a jerry-rigged axe that they would use.
Wow.
Which like metal spikes, like I don't know, maybe he was a miner or
Like
something.
the Arkansas tooth.
We could be the next alienist.
I mean,
Strauss.
Yeah.
I'm
saying.
calling myself that from now on.
We're the alienists.
I like that theory because at the end they when Moore is talking to that prostitute whose name I forget.
Esther?
No.
Oh, which
The
one?
boy.
Oh,
The boy,
Sally.
Sally.
Sally,
yeah.
the little boy.
When he's talking to Sally, Sally says, okay, we could hear them from the room, and then when we opened the door, no one was there, and they were up on the third floor. So it's another evidence that, like, he's Batman, or a rock climber.
Bad Batman. Hashtag
Bad
Bad
Batman.
Right. It's so funny that you say rock climbing became really popular here, and I'm like, sorry, I'm like all like bent over. I feel like I'm too tall. And you said that they used metal picks.
Yeah, like metal spikes that they would hammer. I mean, I guess it's like similar to what they use now, but I guess
Right.
much more like old school. And then axes, so it's almost like ice axes. But
And it
that's what
makes
they
you
use for
think
rocks.
like that when you said that, it reminded me of the Arkansas pick that they claimed
right.
that they could. And I got really curious about the Arkansas pick. Of course the Isaacson brothers said that the killer may have used. I looked it up, and it was invented, or it's a 12 to 20 inch pointed straight blade. It was invented by James Black, and interesting for his background. When he was 8 years old, so his mother died when he was extremely young, and he did not get along with his stepmother. And when James Black, the inventor of the Arkansas pick, or the at least recognized one, he ran away from home when he was, when he was 8 years old. He ran away for Philly. So you're thinking, okay,
Maybe it's
young
him.
boy, right? It's like the theme of this show. Young boy runs
Interesting.
away, doesn't really have a home, and And again, it's that infatuation. Does the killer have some type of attraction or passion against this whole young boy thing, that he chooses a toothpick or a knife that was invented by someone who ran away when he was 8?
Interesting.
I mean, it seems like we're going the way of the killer is a pedophile, because everybody that he picks out is a young boy. There was something very sexually suggestive when he reached to the boy's hand.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Did they go like this? Did I see
Yeah.
this happen?
Intimate.
That is so intimate. Because I don't,
No, it seems that he's certainly a pedophile. And then we have, like, now in this episode, we have reference to other young boys who were killed in the cold case files, the dog files, that probably fit the bill, the same thing, and they're being ignored because they're poor.
Right. And the files are being locked away in the captain's desk.
Right. For what reason?
Like, he's in it, and I want him to pay. I don't like him.
Yeah,
I want that guy to pay big time.
He's definitely corrupt.
Somebody's paying him something.
If he had social media nowadays, he would be, like, trolled to death.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
I'm writing
day.
Alienist all through his social media.
That's, like, tougher than, like, Beyonce's fans.
Oh, what?
But, anyway.
So that guy, the police guy, is definitely corrupt. And
His name isn't important.
Right.
Forget his name.
Commissioner Connor.
Forget his name.
I guess we'll say his name.
I'm going to cover
Commissioner
my
Carter.
headphones.
Connor, he's definitely corrupt. The boys too, it seems like, and we don't have enough information on all of them, but it seems like there is this theme, not just cross-dressing, and I like that Laszlo tries to make the difference with Moore between, like, someone who is just happens to be effeminate and someone who is, like, sexually inclined a different way.
Right.
And it also makes me think of, okay, well, you could have young boys dressing as prostitutes because they're trying to make money, or you could have boys that actually want to be girls, which is something different.
Completely different.
And so it seems like these boys, at least the two main ones, the Giorgio and
Gloria.
then
Benjamin
Zweig.
Zweig.
It seems like they both wanted to be girls, or they wanted to dress up like women. So at the very least, they were transvestites, but it's possible they were transgender.
Yeah. And I also want to point out that Sally was the conversation that he was having when he was talking about how Gloria flew away. I feel like there was so much more in that. Like, they're definitely afraid of someone, but it's like, even though what happened to Giorgio happened, it's like he was still able to be free from whatever is happening to them within that brothel.
Right, because he said, one day I'll be free, too.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, I mean, so he it was like, I can't really say something, but if you listen to me, you can really hear what I'm saying to you.
It's like he was he was supposed to lie. Like, he was he was supposed to go in there and deviate from the plan.
Exactly.
And all that. So, yeah.
Exactly.
And so, you hear, I don't know if anyone else picked up on this, but again, I mentioned it last week, I'm super analytical. You could hear while Moore was talking to the bartender or something, you could hear in the background, people were having conversations in the background, and I was more focused on what was going on back in the, back there.
The whispers.
The whispers, but you heard again, and it's not the first time we heard it, was someone say, "You're not like the other boys." And the brother of Giorgio, or Gloria, has said that as well, that
good point.
the brother was like, oh, and the mother, he's not like other boys, so maybe that's, going off of what you said, you have boys who just dress up just to get paid, and then you have ones that truly feel they were born that way and they're just trying to find their identity, and I think that might be it.
So we should pay attention to that more.
Yeah, because it was said twice, like 2 or 3 times. Again, like when Moore was walking through the hall, it was
what? Something just said maybe that's how they're identifying who the next victims are. Maybe, like, I don't know, whoever this rich guy is with the teeth that's coming in, maybe he obviously spends a lot of time there. So maybe he's paying close attention to these boys that are not like the other boys, because you're right. We've heard that reiterated a lot.
Yeah.
And that's been the the one consistent thing that's been the same about all the victims. They're not like the other boys.
They're ones that actually truly feel and enjoy dressing up as who they are. So that's a really good point.
And that's another, I mean, society will turn a blind eye to someone to someone who wants to be a girl. So we know that, like, he's purposely picking victims that he thinks hopefully no one will care about. He'll create this spectacle of them finding the body, but he knows that ultimately they're probably not going to look for him.
Yeah, and maybe he thinks that he's, quote, doing God's work because there's so many people, the police, the coroner, poor Teddy Roosevelt, he's like so stuck in the middle, but all of these people, maybe they know exactly who the killer is, and they think that this person is doing the world justice to cleanse the world of all of these types of boys, and they're just throwing it under the rug.
Especially by cutting out their eyes and their tongue.
Yeah.
And you said there was a science behind that. Like, someone said there's...
Oh, no, I was thinking about... So I loved how in the first... I guess it was like the first scene after the teaser where they have the two Jewish doctors, the brothers, have the head of, what was it, like a bull?
A cow,
and they're using knives to scratch out the eyes just to see, like, if it makes the same marks. And I was like, I love that kind of thinking, that kind of like real, like, criminal investigation because you don't have you don't have all the documentation to give you this information, so you have to do old-fashioned, like, guesswork.
Right.
Really, and these guys were really obviously coming up with a lot of, the new technology, because we've got, like, the fingerprints in this episode that are never really been used before in cases. Last episode we had... What did we have in the last episode? That was the new... photography.
Yes.
Photography,
Instead of... They were drawing instead of photography, but...
And just the autopsy in general, they were looking into... Like, they kind of made a big point of that, but...
Yeah, of not really caring about, I guess, the technology that they
and
could
they said
use.
that they're so modern. The Isaacson brothers are so modern.
Oh,
yes,
I love
they
it.
are.
And I love it.
I love how they're evolving. I love it.
In the midst of a society that's, like, telling them not to. Pretty bold.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed this either, but there was that one little scene with the political party, the Socialist Party.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I don't know where that's going, but for those of you that don't know, the Socialist Party is actually today's Democrats. So, I mean, I don't know where that's going to lead, but I'm interested to kind of see how that plays in the story. If they're going to, like, have some sort of, control over maybe the police not being so corrupt or the mob or something like that. So
That's a good point.
Yeah, and thinking about back to American history, I mean, it's just showing how slowly over time, we're evolving. Even the American history, back then people were talking about equal rights. We had so many immigrants that migrated to the country. Slowly after that, we'll probably see women's rights. I mean, it's just like, and then we had the war. So it's like it's slowly evolving, and I think it's so dope how they have. Basically integrated that into the show.
Oh yeah,
so dope.
Yeah,
the timing
factual
is great.
stuff is
yeah,
fantastic.
It's great. It makes the show even more interesting. It's like it's educating us, but it's grabbing us like, okay, pay attention to this, and it's making us alienist all at the same time. Super dope.
I do like, though, that it's kind of like Marcus has a crush on this girl, so he follows her to the party. I mean, even though it shows you that, like, Marcus and his brother, they're, like, obviously very smart guys. They're evolved, scientifically speaking, but he still has a crush on a girl, and he still has the urge to sleep with a prostitute.
Right. Did he, like, I'm thinking, did he strike out? Because clearly, I mean, that's just not the
Well,
one.
did you guys notice when
they?
they walked into that dinner party, everyone was laughing because they weren't dressed correctly?
Yeah.
Right.
And they were looking around, feeling a little
Yeah, they were like,
insecure.
wait, why is everyone laughing
And
at
then
us?
they're,
No, wait, because you're not in
Jews.
tuxedo.
And they're Jews. So technically, they're not really not accepted into this high-class party. I mean, if you look around, everybody was like white Americans.
Right.
They were Jews. They not dressed right. They probably don't have the money to be there. Probably couldn't even afford the food.
Right.
Chrysler he has money. He's paid.
Oh, he rented out a whole room.
Right.
To have a discussion.
That whole other
was a
thing
little
was
weird.
weird because in my mind, this is, I don't know if this was a scene that happened in the books, and maybe it's trying to be true to the books, but it's like, if you're a really smart guy conducting an investigation, why would you, even if you had a private room, why would you do it in a public space? Like, why not have a dinner at his home?
Right. Because I was like, when that was happening, I was like, okay, somebody's listening. Like, you don't care. Like, you want your business, like, out there. Like, what's going on?
He's, like, feeding off, because he mentions, like, oh, hey, this killer, you know, he's pretty dangerous, just to let you know.
There's no discretion whatsoever. Yeah. Where is the discretion?
Like, is he wanting that extra,
publicity
challenge,
or something?
Like come get me killer kind of mentality.
Right,
like, I don't know.
Right. The killer might come for one of us soon.
Right. I'm like, can you not say that so loudly?
It's because it's him.
Gosh.
But I do also like that they're, as much as like Chrysler is a genius as far as what he does, they do show like he's has these social faux pas where it's like they're all eating and he's like talking about the killer, and then he gets the two Jewish doctors interested in talking about the killer.
He's like, hey, eyeballs and tongues.
And you have this moment where John Moore is like eating his soup as everyone's talking about that.
Right.
I'm trying so hard not to get annoyed by John. You know, John just needs to loosen up just a little bit.
Let's move into my next segment, which I had politely on the board called What's Going to Happen to John Moore. But in my notes, it was Moore is so dumb.
He's not dumb. I think he's...
I was like, okay,
but
let me just say, if you're doing an investigation, who goes straight to the belly of the beast and then tells them what they're doing? It's not even like he went undercover. He went there and he was like, I need information on this. I know you're all criminals running this place, but please give me information.
I met Allison and Kelly before already, so they like knew
they had
each
met
other.
them in the police office knowing they were grifters.
You know what?
Exactly.
The reason why he did it, and I love John, so all of my John lovers out there, I don't know, Alyssa, if you're still online, honey, you can vouch for me here, but I love. Is she typing?
She said, "Poor innocent John."
See, I love you, girl. Thank you for having my back. I think John felt. I mean, if you remember, Dr. Chrysler made him feel so invaluable. So if he's like, "Have you done your job?"
Are you ready for
John
this?
had
you ready
to
for
be,
a comeback? Okay.
No, John had to be extremely like, you know what? I am valuable, and let me show you why. Dr. Chrysler has way too much money. He's never going to be found in the streets that John roams at night and found in a tuxedo with his flamboyant assistant. So John was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the heart of the belly. I'm going to get what I know Dr.
Smart
Chrysler.
about how he went about it.
He wasn't smart, but
he
that's
wasn't
what his
smart.
He's filled with good
First of all, he's being extremely prideful. Okay, let's start there. He's been extremely prideful.
His pride was hurt, and then he was like, I'm going to go investigate it on my own, like a dumbass.
Like a dummy. Not to mention, he's getting his panties in a wad because he's calling him out about his love for Sarah Howard. You know, and I feel like that's where it all. So he's like, now I have something to prove. He stuck his chest out, walking down the street, drunk, and he's like, okay, go watch the guy. I'm thinking, where is the assistant? Why he's getting drugged and beat and raped?
That was one of the other things I was thinking of, because it's. Chrysler makes this kind of like juxtaposed comment where he says he picked Sarah for the position of the go-between between the police office and him because she was a woman and she could go undetected. And then it's like, now you have someone like Moore going out there acting like a sore thumb. So he sends Stevie, who is a person who's able to blend in because he knows the streets.
Right.
He sends Stevie after him. So when I was watching this whole last scene, as like, it's like Chrysler knew that something bad was going to happen because he sent Stevie to trail him. So where is Stevie, and why is he not doing his job?
Well, maybe
where is Stevie?
Maybe he's getting the other guy that drives the carriage, and they're gonna go in there and save him. So maybe he's not getting it.
I hope something happens because he's gonna get all his manginity taken away from him. I'm just saying.
My poor John.
How did he not know when? Because like the guy who was serving him the drinks, which one? I forget their names.
He's Ellison, I believe.
So he's Ellison. So he's like one of the top shady guys. Why would you? Okay, and again, this is like women know, like, don't take a drink from a creepy stranger, you know?
Right.
He was just like, yeah, I'll just drink these free drinks that you're giving me. It's great. Everything will be fine. And I'm like, no, we know from the moment you take that glass, you're going to be roofied.
Right. That's true. true. We look away for a second.
It was fun that they showed him being roofied, because I just automatically assumed he was being roofied before they even showed that. I was like,
totally.
We know he's going to be roofied because this guy's like, why are you poking around here?
So naive. So naive. Our poor John.
So you guys think he was raped, or do you think he's going to be saved before that happens?
Oh,
I think he's going to be saved, but I don't know, because
hope
like
so.
the previews for the next couple episodes like show him kind of like, you know, getting closer to Sarah, and I feel like if that happened to you, you'd probably be like, please, I'm going to just like go jump off a bridge
ASAP. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that you'd want to cuddle
think
up
he
with
needs
a
to learn
woman
a
after that.
lesson. I think he needs to learn a lesson. I do. I think he needs to learn a lesson.
I think the getting drugged and like having surrounded by creepy strangers is like lesson enough. And then I think I do think that hopefully Stevie will grab Cyrus and they'll come in and save him before the next episode.
I pray that somebody's spying through that window that was right there.
And not bad Batman.
not bad.
Batman.
Not hashtag bad Batman.
No.
Any last thoughts before we go into our who was our fan of the week?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Fingerprints.
Oh yeah, fingerprints. That's like the big clue that we have.
Yes, that is
On the watch.
the only clue that is tying us to our killer. I just want to say, fun fact about fingerprints, that fingerprints were first used on clay tablets for business transactions in ancient Babylon in 1000 2000 BC. Wow. That's your history lesson of the day. Yes, interesting, right?
It took us
So
that
even
long.
then, they knew how unique it was.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that we actually didn't get a clue from the killer this episode. I thought we were going to get another one. Because, you know, in the end of the last one, we got the tongue in the carriage.
It was the bloody fingerprint, though, right?
I feel like
I guess it was
an
fingerprint,
unintentional.
right?
I was gonna say
Unintentional.
unintentional.
But the other one was intentional, so I was like...
And we didn't see much of him, really, except for the hand, the creepy hand.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know what? Now that you're mentioning the hand, it was a very dirty hand.
It was disgusting.
Right back at, bad hygiene.
He's a rich man with dirty hands. What does that say?
It means
That
that
he's a killer.
they need antibacterial soap. They need something. Can we please?
My
writers,
antibacterial lotion has glitter in it. I think he needs that.
I think they would appreciate that at that brothel.
Yeah,
they would
right.
enjoy that.
They would enjoy that.
Oh, and then the other clue was the teeth. The teeth. The silver teeth. The silver teeth.
Right. And you would think that type of person would be easy to find, but that coat, the coat, if you remember in the first episode, he wore that coat so high.
Right.
Anyway.
I know.
So
Now we
good
know
stuff.
who we're looking for, a guy with silver teeth. The other thing I was just thought of was Sarah and Chrysler. There seemed to be some kind of, because we know in an upcoming episode Sarah's going to make out with John Moore, because we see that in like every preview now. But I think in the at the end of this episode there was some. Was it just me, or was there sexual tension?
It wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was something weird going on there, like definitely some, like he was all, oh, okay,
Right.
yes,
And
good
You
night."
look beautiful.
And she walked away. She was like, got him wrapped around. Did you see the smirk at the end when she got out of the carriage? I was about to say car.
Yeah.
She got out of the
She
carriage.
fancies him.
Right. I don't know. I think she likes that she's in the middle of these two guys. She's like, these two guys are kind of digging me right now.
And she still has hormones.
That's true.
She still has more
They
hormones.
had those back in the 19th
And she was looking good in that green dress. I was like, all right, girl.
Right.
She wore the pretty dress in the end, even though she was telling her handmaiden lady that she wasn't going to wear it.
Right.
Yeah.
She was like,
Found that interesting.
she's using her womanly ways.
So, who's our fan of the week?
So our fan of the week this week is from Pirate Star, and he wrote last week that he loved the premiere. And the thing that really stood out to me that he said that I loved was that this reminded him a little bit of Jack the Ripper murders, which I actually looked up a little fun fact about. And this series would have taken place 8 years after Jack the Ripper. So it still would have been pretty fresh on people's minds, especially in New York, because it travels a little slower across the sea there. So I really love that. And he also was wondering if the killer in New York City, was influenced by Jack the Ripper. And he thinks the cops are very corrupt, which obviously we're seeing more and more of in all these episodes. So we loved your comments, Pirate Star, and you're our fan of the week. So thanks for commenting.
So guys, please comment on our YouTube or iTunes if you listen on iTunes, and we'll pick from either of those fan of the week, and give us a little thumbs up on YouTube or 5-star review on iTunes if you're so inclined.
Right. And use hashtag it means something.
Because it does.
It does. Pick up on all of your deep detail clues.
And then also, please be sure to join us every single week on the live chat and chat with us about what you think it means, as well as what you think about the show.
Yes.
And I think, I don't know if we should
Oh
mention
yes,
it now.
I forgot to mention it. Yeah.
Next, or this coming Saturday, we are going to be visiting where they're going to be displaying a lot of the wardrobe from this series. So if there's any items that you want us to look for, I guess let us know, and we will be hopefully Snapchatting and doing some live videos from that and taking some pictures, and that we're going to share with you next time we come in.
So check in on all of our social media next Saturday morning for all that information. Yes. You can find me 123 Jackie B on all platforms except for Snapchat, where it's Jackie B 123.
Yes, and you can find me on Instagram at Miss Candi Marie and on Twitter at Sweet Candor TV.
And you can find me on Twitter at Alice L. Ford or on Instagram at Alice's Adventures on Earth.
And you can find me, Takira Shabrae, at Takira_Shabrae on both Instagram and newly Twitter.
See you guys next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz. See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.